All right, today we're jumping into a simple rule that can literally be the difference between life and death for first responders. It's called the 100-foot rule. And it's just a fascinating example of how a really clear plan can bring order to one of the most chaotic situations you can possibly imagine. I want you to picture this, a major car wreck. You've got flashing lights, debris is all over the place, traffic is backing up for miles. It's just a super high stakes, really dangerous environment. And right into the middle of this, a second ambulance arrives. So where does it park? You might think anywhere it can fit, right? But no, this is not a random decision. It is an absolutely critical choice that affects the safety of the patient and every single rescuer on that highway. Okay, so before we can really dig into the rule itself, we've got to learn to speak the language, the language of traffic incident management. Because first responders, they see a crash scene in a very specific way, and it all boils down to two key terms. And you know what? The concepts here are actually super simple, but they are absolutely crucial. So you've got upstream, that's just where traffic is coming from. It's the area behind the crash. Then you have downstream, that's the area past the incident, where traffic is supposed to be going. Getting this basic distinction down, that's the foundation for literally all safe operations on a roadway. All right, so now that we know the lay of the land, let's get to the solution. There's a core protocol that's designed to bring immediate order and, most importantly, safety to the scene. And the answer? Well, it all comes down to this number, about 100 feet. Kind of specific, right? So let's take a look at what that distance really means when the boots are on the ground. So here's how the rule plays out. Let's say fire or police are already there and they've secured the scene. They're blocking traffic. The second ambulance to show up doesn't just jam on the brakes and pull in behind everyone else. Nope. Instead, it drives carefully past the wreck and parks itself about 100 feet downstream. Okay, but why, right? Why would you drive past the problem? Why not get as close to the action as you can? Well, it turns out there are some really smart reasons for this very specific placement. Let's dig in and see how this actually builds a safer, more efficient scene for everybody. Parking like this gives the crew a bunch of tactical advantages. For one, it creates a totally clear exit path. So when the patient is ready to go, the ambulance can just go. No complicated three-point turns needed. This also stops that big logjam of emergency vehicles from forming. Plus, it keeps the EMS crew out of the immediate danger zone and helps create something called a protective shadow. Yeah, let's focus on that for a second. The protective shadow. Think about it. That first big fire truck that's parked upstream, it's basically acting like a giant physical shield. It creates this safe zone, this buffer right behind it. So by parking downstream, the second EMS crew makes sure they're working inside this protected bubble, shielded from any oncoming car that might, not stop in time. But of course, real life is messy. No two crash scenes are ever exactly the same. So a good rule has to be smart. It has to be adaptable. It can't just be rigid and unthinking. So let's talk about the key exceptions, the moments when a commander might look at the situation and decide, okay, we've got to bend the rule here. And this isn't just some boring checklist, it's a real-time, on-the-fly assessment. The unit commander is thinking, okay, is the upstream traffic actually blocked? Because if not, maybe we need to be the blocker. Or is this wreck spread out over 3 lanes? Are there active hazards like a fuel leak or downed power lines? They're constantly evaluating all these factors and can absolutely override the guideline to put their vehicle in the safest, most effective spot for that specific situation. So we've looked at the rule, the why behind it, and even when to break it. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the one core principle we really need to remember? At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple idea. This is really the key takeaway from all the source material. If the scene is already secured by fire or police, the second EMS unit parks about 100 feet downstream. Why? To keep everyone safe, to keep things flowing, to protect that buffer zone, and to make sure there's always a clear way out. It's all about being safe, smart, and efficient. This is just a perfect example of how a simple, really well-designed rule can create a pocket of safety right in the middle of total chaos. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other simple rules like this are out there? Maybe in aviation or surgery or even just in our daily lives that are quietly working in the background to keep us safe. Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.